30-06 John here, and I hope everyone's getting ready for deer season. A question that comes up every so often is, what range should I zero my deer rifle for? So let's talk about that and show what I think are the best options. This is a deer target that I use for practice. It's pretty close to full size, maybe 3/4 size. The vital area, the heart-lung area for a deer is, a lot of people use 8 inches, 8-inch circle. That's about right there. So when you sight in your rifle, you want to make sure that no matter what your distance is, you're inside that 8-inch circle. I reduce that to about a 6-inch circle because you may not get the perfect sight alignment. So I set my rifles in for maximum point blank range of plus or minus 3 inches. Here is a ballistic drop chart I created. It's for the 6.5 Creedmoor, shooting the Hornady 143 ELDX factory ammo, going 2,700 feet per second, with a ballistic coefficient of 0.625. If you zero your rifle for 100 yards, at 50 yards you're 0.1 inches low, at 200 yards you're minus 0.3, 0.8 inches low. So you're already sort of limiting yourself to 200 yards. While if you zero it for 200 yards, you're good out to about 250 yards. And the probably ideal for a 6.5 Creedmoor with 143 ELDX is 225 yards. At 250 yards, you're 1.6 inches low. So you're good to about 275 yards. At 300 yards, you're 6 inches low. You'll be shooting right underneath the deer. Now, some people, because the 6.5 Creedmoor is considered a long-range cartridge, will zero it for 300 yards. But at 150 and 200 yards, you're over 5 inches high. You can shoot right over that deer's back. This is the 350 Legend with Hornady 170 grain factory ammo, going 2,200 feet per second. If you zero it for 50 yards, you're good out to about 100. At 150 yards, you're 4 inches low. That's a little bit too low for me. You zero it for 100 yards, you're 0.3 inches high. At 150 yards, you're about 3 inches low. If you zero it for 150 yards, you're actually pretty good out to 150. At 200 yards, you're 5 inches low. That's a little bit too low. So this is probably ideal, and you're probably good out to 175 yards. If you zero it to 200 yards, at 100 yards, you're 4.5 inches high. You could, that's a little bit too high for me. This is 7mm Rem Mag, shooting Hornady 154 grain SST bullets, going 3,100 feet per second. This is their factory ammo. If you zero it for 100 yards, you're actually pretty good out to about 200 yards. At 250 yards, you're 5.6 inches low. That's a little bit too low. If you zero it for 250 yards, at 100 yards, you're 2.2 inches high. You only go over 3 inches high. At 300 yards, you're minus or 3.1 inches low. So that's good out to about 300 yards. Now, if you zero the gun for 300 yards, you're actually sort of high at 150 yards. You're 4.2 inches high, 4 inches high at 200 yards. And at 350 yards, you're about 4 inches low. Some people will say to sight in your rifle at 100 yards, and if you have to shoot further, you could dial in the elevation on your scope. That chews up some time. I've shot a fair amount of animals at 200 and 300 yards where I didn't have time to dial in any type of dope. As you see here with the 6.5 Creedmoor, if you zero it for 100 yards, at 200 yards, you almost have to dial in elevation right there. At 250, you have to. At 300 yards, you're more than a foot low. Now, if you're just shooting out to 100 yards, like I said, just sight in for 100 yards, maybe a half an inch or an inch high at 50 yards, and you're good to go. But if you want to extend your maximum point blank range, if you look at all three of these drop charts, at 100 yards for best performance, this says 1.9 inches high. The 6.5 Creedmoor is about 2.5 inches high. And the 7mm Rem Mag at 100 yards, it's 2.2 inches high. So if you sight in your gun for about 2 inches high at 100 yards, you'll probably get your best performance, all-around best performance. That's how I sighted my rifles. 2 inches high at 100 yards. Try to get a nice tight group, and you're good to go.